Hello and welcome back to my craft room. We're halfway through November 2021, so I thought it's high time I have a bit of a play with my November bead boxes from Deborah Beads. So I've got a really good idea for what I want to do. I've been watching some videos by a lovely lady on YouTube called Sheryl Martinez. I will leave a link to her below. And the projects I'm hoping to make today have very much been inspired by Sheryl's tutorials, so I will definitely leave a link to them in the description box if you'd like to check them out. So let's go to my desk cam now. I'm experimenting with a different camera position so that hopefully I'll be able to show you a bit better what I'm doing. So I have two monthly subscription boxes from Deborah Beads and they cost £5 each a month, including postage to the UK, which I consider to be really good value. This one is the kit box, so it comes with everything you need to make a specific set. In this case, a bracelet and earrings, or it might be a necklace and earrings. The last couple of months I've chosen, although I love them, the instructions are brilliant, really clear, beautifully photographed, so you know exactly what you're doing. Now I've done a few more, I'm sort of starting to want to do my own thing a bit. So the last couple of months I've thrown both kits together, chucked in a few bits from my own stash and kind of done a mashup, and that's what I'm going to do again this month. So I'm going to put that to one side. So that's the kit box. Beautiful little glass beads in there, I love these. All kind of different pastel colours that all go together really nicely. And then, so that's kit box. Then this is the bead box, and this is a curated collection of beads and jewellery findings, which is designed to kind of work with and build up your own stash. Usually the two boxes go together quite nicely. Not always. I think in this case, I think they probably would. I actually think I'm going to get two separate pieces out of this. My idea is that I'm going to make two bracelets inspired by the lovely 3-strand boho bracelets that Sheryl Martinez makes. So my first step is to lay all of these supplies out on my bead board. So by the magic of video editing, there we are, all done. So I've got my pretty beads, my little focal pieces, all laid out ready, all my findings, and the seed beads here, which I will probably end up putting onto this bead mat to stop them rolling about. I've also got ready some other colours of seed beads in case I need them. Those are ones I've just sort of accumulated in my stash over the years. Some of them will be left over from other bead kits from previous months. Some of them I've just had a really long time. Then I've also got some bead caps and ends there. I've got some spacer beads, different shapes and sizes. And some jump rings, all different shapes and sizes there. I've also got two, because I want to make two bracelets, two toggle clasps which are designed for multi-stranded, 3-stranded bracelets or necklaces. So instead of the one that came with the kit, I'm going to use these. I will also be needing some more head pins when I come to make my little dangly charms in a bit. I've got this lovely length of chain, and there's plenty of that to cut into 2 or even 3. I only need the bracelet to be about 6 inches long. That's about it for now. If I need anything else, I'll grab it as I go along. There's some wire in here and cord ends and things as well, but both that all came in the kits. I've got my tools handy, all different kinds of pliers. I mostly use 2 pairs of round nose pliers, some cutters, whichever ones work best at the time, and flat nose pliers. I have got a few other ones there as well. One of my latest purchases is these. I don't know what are they called, Boho pliers, I think. So as you can see, they're made for making nice different sizes of nice round loops. So put all those to one side for a minute. And the next thing I'm going to do is just lay out my first bracelet on here so that I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to stop this film for a minute and come back to you when I've laid that out. Right, I've got my arrangement for the first strand of my 3-stranded bracelet. This one's going to be wired. So I'm also going to need some wire crimps. Right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm hoping you're going to be able to see a bit better now in my new camera arrangement. Now I think I've got plenty of wire here to make both bracelets. But I'm not going to cut it, I'm going to leave it in one piece until I'm finished, because it's usually less wasteful that way. And these wire bracelets are nice and easy. Once you've got the arrangement sorted, all you've got to do is thread it. You haven't got to use a needle or anything because the wire is stiff enough to just pick the beads up. So I'm going to start with a couple of seed beads, I think. I have a blue and a silver seed bead at each end. And I'm going to be adding more seed beads through the length. My aim is to end up about 15 centimetres, so this is a little bit too long on here actually, but they'll all shovel up together a bit more as I'm working, so I think this will be about right. So the first thing I need to do is get the crimp on one end. So these little wire crimps are just a tiny, they look like a tiny metal bead, which is kind of what they are really. And you just squish them together to anchor everything. So I'm threading I've threaded my crimp, my wire crimp onto the wire there, and now I'm going to thread the wire back through it. There you go. Now I'm going to pull that up so it's a nice neat little loop, not too big of a loop. So I only need to be able to get a jump ring through it. I don't want a big gap because that will look ugly and defeat the object. There we go, so that's about right, I would say. And I've made sure that my wire is lying nice and flat. They're side by side, they're not kind of twisted over. And then once I'm happy with that, I can take my flat pliers and just squish it flat. And once I've done that, the wire can't move. There we go, that's nice and neat. Once I'm happy with that, I can just cut the end off. There we go, because that's all nice and secure. So, time to start threading. So it's nice and easy to just pick up these beads on the wire. It's a lot easier if you've got better eyesight than me. I've given up trying to wear my magnifying visor when I'm trying to film because I just keep knocking the ring light. I can't see the screen, I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to put some little seed beads in between these as well as I go along. But this should be a relatively quick process now, because I've already done all the thinking, I've already laid it out. I threw in a couple more beads from my stash. These white ones came from a broken up old necklace. So I'm just going to whip through and thread all these on, and then when I get to the other end I'll come back and show you what comes next. I finished threading my first strand together on the wire. I had to have a bit of a rethink because it did come out too long. I'd misjudged, and it might be a little bit too short. But if it is, I'm just going to have the jump ring on either end. I think it'll be fine. I'll make it work. I'm not unthreading it again. So now I need to do the same at this end as I did at this end and make a little wire loop. Not wire loop. I make a little loop with a wire crimp. So I'm putting the crimp on first. I'm going to try bringing the camera down even further. Okay. So there's my last little seed bead. I've threaded on my wire crimp, and I'm going to thread this wire back through the crimp. At the moment I'm having to peer down through the top of my ring light, so this is a little bit awkward, but I think I think you can see a bit better what I'm doing, hopefully. That's it, it's going. We're getting there. There, got it. So I've threaded that wire back through the crimp, and I'm going to pull it up fairly close. This has got to be loose enough to bend nicely. If you pull it all too tight, it gets a bit stiff. So you just got to judge it, really. So I'm just making sure that's reasonably snug, but as I say, not too tight. And pull it down so I've got a nice little neat loop. Just a little bit more. That's about right. Okay. So that's what you want. With the wire, the two strands of wire laying nicely side by side. Not twisted together, so that it will go nice and flat. Yeah, I'll give that a good old squeeze with my flat nose pliers. And so all of that is now held in place, and I can snip off the excess wire. You can thread it back through, but you don't really need to. What Sheryl Martinez does with these wire crimps is she uses crimp bead covers, so it covers up the whole of that crimp and looks really neat. It just makes it look like another bead. So I haven't got any of those, but I'm going to get some and try it because I thought it was a really nice finish. But they look fine like this. I think that's quite a nice professional looking finish. Still isn't focusing nicely. There we go. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So that's the first strand of my bracelet. Now for one of the other strands, I'm going to use a length of chain, and I guess I want the chain to be about the same length as this. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to cut this chain there. I've got enough to make at least one other bracelet, if not two. Get rid of that broken. So I've got this length of chain, and on the chain, it's a very pretty chain we've got in the kit this time. So basically you've got 3 small links and a big one, 3 small links and a big one. So on each of the big links I'm going to put a little wire wrapped charm. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I maybe won't, I'll maybe just do 12 because I don't want the ones nearest to the clasp to be getting in the way. So I'll do 12 little charms. Now when I was digging through looking for white beads just now, I found these white leaves and I thought one of these would make a nice little charm. I also want to use there's these 2 flat hearts that came in the kits and this one other heart, so can maybe, yeah, I think I'm going to use this one. And then I've also got these focal beads to use, so I'm going to space these all along I think as the other bracelet's going to have 2 hearts, this one can have 2 leaves. So what I need to do now, that's spaced out quite nicely, what I need to do now is work out what arrangement I'm going to have in each of my little wire wrapped charms. So I'm going to do that in a minute and I will come back to you. Right, so I've thought this all through a bit and I'm ready to start making my wire wrap charms. So I'm going to need 2 pairs of round nose pliers, that's how I usually do it, and I'm going to start with this largest one. I'm using these head pins, I really like, they've got like a ball end instead of the flat end like this. They've got a ball end, which is quite nice because it looks like just looks like a bead. The end just looks like a bead when you're done. So all I'm going to do is thread my beads onto the head pin in the order I've already worked out. So there we go, that's going to be my first little charm. And then I'm going to take my round nose pliers, I'm going to place them just about a couple of mil, if that. So just a couple of mil from the end of that last bead. And I'm going to bend the wire back almost to a right angle, a bit more, like that. Now I'm making note of how far up the kind of nose of the pliers I'm holding the wire, because I want to try and make them all roughly the same. So I'm holding that quite firmly and I'm just using my hands, my fingers, to bend that wire over towards the front, so it's sort of like that. Now I'm loosening my grip on the pliers a bit and turning them round. So I've got hold of them like this again. Oh, it's so, I cannot make this camera focus, I'm really sorry. It's focusing beautifully down there, but that's a bit far away. And then I'm going to take hold of this wire and bend it back to the back. So it's now like this. I've got a nice little round loop. So I'm going to keep hold of that, hold my pliers across that loop, and then I'm going to use my other pair of pliers to grab hold of the end of that wire and wrap it round that bare wire that we left. making this look more difficult than it is because I'm holding this at arm's length and looking down through my ring light so that I can try and give you a better view of what I'm doing, but the trouble is it's still not focusing. So can you see I've wrapped that end of wire around the little bit that we left at the top above the bead. So I've covered all of that naked bit of wire, and now I'm going to clip that off as close as I can get with my little snips. And there's always a little bit that kind of sticks out. You can just see it there. So I'm just going to take my pliers and squeeze that in. Just squeeze it so it tucks in. That's got it. There. So it's all nice and tidy. So that's my little wire wrapped charm. So I'm going to work through now and do all of these. I've got 7. I was almost going to have 5, then I added these 2 as well. I like odd numbers. So I've got 6 more to do. Actually, these ones will only need a jump ring on. So I'm going to work my way through that, and then I just need to come back and attach them all to the chain. So, see you in a minute. Right, I've brought the camera down as low as it'll go. I'm going to have another go at seeing if I can show you the detail a bit better on this. So this is my last little wire wrap charm for this bracelet actually. So I've got my head pin. I've just put a little seed bead on to start it off. Whoops. Threading on my bead. And another little seed bead. Taking around those pliers. Grabbing hold of that wire a sort of scant 2mm above the last bead, bending it back to like nearly a right angle. Making note of how far up the nose I am to try and keep them all with roughly the same size loop. And then bending the wire back towards me. Adjusting the position of the pliers. So they're back like this again. And then just using my fingers to bend the wire back. So I've got this nice little round loop. Now grabbing hold of that loop with the pliers across the loop like that, and now I'm just going to wrap this free end of wire around to cover that little 2mm ish gap that I left. And these head pins are nice and soft, so I can just do that with my fingers. I don't really need the second pair of pliers this time. So I'm just wrapping that round as closely as I can to make a nice neat wrap. And when I'm happy with that, I can just use my little snips to snip off the end as close as I can get. And here's where you can see, although I've tried to go close, you can see there's a little bit sticking out. I'll cut a little bit more off it if I can. And then I just use my flat nose pliers. So that's my last little wire wrapped one done. Now to attach the heart charm, I'm just going to use a jump ring. I'm going to see if this makes it any easier for the camera to focus without all that distracting background. Right, so here's my jump ring. Grabbing hold of it either side of the join, and I'm opening it by twisting them that way. You never twist it out that way because you might break it. So I'm going to put that jump ring through my heart. That sounds good, doesn't it? And attach it to the chain. I think that one. And then I'm going to do exactly the same in the opposite direction. Right, so that's my first little dangler on there. Now I'm going to need some smaller jump rings I'm going to need a smaller jump ring to attach this one. So exactly the same process. Twist my jump ring open. Thread the charm on, and then add it to my chain. Now I want to make sure that they all fall in the same direction, so I don't want the chain twisted. There we are, so I want them straight like that. Make sure I hang this one so that it will fall the same way. There we go. So that's that one on. So I'm going to work through now, hang the rest of these on. And I'm going to do that off camera, so I haven't got to do it at arm's length, squinting through a, through a ring light. And I'll come back and show you how it looks when I've done them. Okay, that's the last one on. So that's 2 strands of my bracelet done. I think probably they're going to be like that, so I've got one more strand to go, and this one I've put off till last because it's a whole new learning experience for me, and again it was inspired by Sheryl Martinez, so check out her tutorial if you want to see how she does it. I will definitely make sure I leave a link in the description box, because she'll probably explain this a lot better than I will. But what she shows as one of the 3 strands of her boho bracelet is peyote beading. So I'm hoping to use these little blue and silver seed beads that came in the kits, along with a few of a different shade of blue and white ones that I've got here, and possibly some of these, but that might be for the other bracelet. I'm hoping to do a bit of peyote beading for my last strand. So I've got, what have I done with it? I've got this beading thread, and I've got this very fine flexible needle, and this is called a large eye needle. And initially you would look at this and think, well, it's not very large, I can't see it, but actually this needle has a secret, because the whole needle is, well, almost the whole needle is one big up. That is a big eye needle, and so it's very, very easy to thread, but it's very fine and will go through very fine beads. So if I just put this thread in, and once you let go so the eye closes up, it's very difficult to pull out. so you can't kind of accidentally unthread it, which is brilliant. Now I'm just going to make sure it will go through these seed beads before I start. Yes, it will. So that's perfect. See, now I want to get that thread out. It's actually quite difficult to get out, which is ideal. Okay, let's have a go at this. I can do it. I can do this. With a bit of determination and YouTube at my fingertips, I can do this. Right, so I'm all ready to go now. I don't think I'm going to bother filming me trying to learn how to do peyote beading. I would suggest that if you want to learn how to do it, you'd be way better off to go and watch Sheryl Martinez show you how. She explains things really well and gives you a lovely close-up view. Maybe I'll ask her how she does how she does that with her camera. Anyway, I'm gonna binge watch a bit of something while I learn to do some peyote weaving, and then I will come back and show you when I'm all done, fingers crossed, and I'll show you how I put the final bracelet together. If the peyote beading doesn't work out, then I will just do another strand of some seed beads or something, just to fill it in a bit, really. Wish me luck. I will come back and see you in a couple of seconds for you, and probably several hours for me. Well, it's the next morning. I was here till very, very late last night, and I was way too tired to do any more recording at that point. So I've literally jumped out of bed, jumped in the shower, got my morning cup of coffee, and I've come back in to finish this off. There's good news and there's bad news. Bad news is peyote beading didn't go so well, but more about that in a minute. But good news is I did end up with something I really like. So I'm going to go to the desk again. There we go. So good news first. What I ended up with was this little multi-stranded bracelet. That doesn't show really well, which I really, really love. I'm ever so happy with this. But where the peyote beading was meant to be, I've ended up just doing a single strand of seed beads, which I think looks really pretty, and I like it so much I'm going to go straight in and do another one with the rest of the beads. And I'm quite pleased that all I've had to throw in from my own stash is some of these white beads, the leaf, and these little sort of irregular shaped white beads which are from a broken necklace, and a few extra seed beads, just some of the white ones. Oh, and a few head pins. Other than that, both these bracelets would have come from, and the clasps, both these bracelets would have come from the contents of the kit, which, you know, to get these two for 10 quid, you know, I'm made up, but let's have a look at the bad news. So this was my sad attempt at peyote beading. Oh, I cannot make this focus. There we go. So you can see that, you know, I did get the gist of it, and I'm not making excuses, but I think the problem, it certainly wasn't the tutorial. Cheryl's tutorial was absolutely brilliant. She shows it, she explains it all really well, and it's really well filmed, so you can see what you're aiming at. I think the problem here was, you can see really, these seed beads are lovely, but they're very irregularly shaped. Not just on the outside, which is bad enough. If you look at a handful of these blue ones, you can see how much they vary in diameter in both planes. And it's not just the outside diameter, it's also the hole through the middle. So in some cases I couldn't get the needle back through the hole when I needed to, when I was trying to weave, because I also ran out of thread part way. And it should be a simple matter to weave another length in, but I couldn't get the bead to go back through with some of the beads because the holes were smaller. So I will definitely try this again, because actually the basic kind of premise of it, once you've got the start is a little bit fiddly, but once you've done that, it's really simple. You could sit in front of the telly and do it. So I'm definitely going to have another go. But now I can't remember the name of the beads. It begins with M. Mayuki beads that Sheryl uses. Anyway, I know I've heard other people say as well that they are very regularly shaped and the holes are all the same size and everything. So that's why people use them for the more intricate kind of bead weaving things, I think. So I'm going to get myself some of those and have another go, because I do really like the look of this, and it would have been lovely as one of the strands of this bracelet. But as I say, I'm delighted with the one that I've ended up with, and I'm going to go straight in now and make up another one with these beads. I don't think there's anything to be gained from filming pretty much the same process again. So I will just do this. It'll take me probably about an hour, and then I will show you what I come up with, and then I'll try and cobble this mess of a video into something I can put on YouTube. Right. So as you can see, I've finished threading up that second bracelet, so I'm really chuffed. I've got 2 bracelets now that I'm very happy with. As I had a few beads left over, I thought I'd make some little stacking elastic rings to go with my bracelet set. So my plan is that I'll have a blue one to go with that one, and a pinky greeny one to go with that one, and then one that will go with both of them, so I can wear them stacked up. So I thought I'd show you how I did this. I've already gone ahead and made this one. That's been fastened with a surgeon's knot, and I've put a drop of glue on it. I'm just going to give that a few minutes to dry, and then I'll cut these ends off. So there's a couple of different ways that I'm going to fasten these off. So the way I've done this one, I've just done a surgeon's knot. All I'm using, by the way, is this cheap elastic thread. It's clear, it's strong, and it's elastic. So it's very easy with rings, because you can put them on any finger. It will fit most fingers. So when you tie it, you've just got to make sure you don't stretch the elastic too much, because you don't want to lose the elasticity. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do, is it? Because my plan is to do the surgeon's knot and hide it within the beads themselves, I've made sure that where my fastening is going to be is between a couple of the beads that are big enough to hide the knot. Not all of the beads I use are going to be big enough to hide a knot. That's why I'm going to do something different with this one. With this, the knot has hidden within the end caps that I've used either side of the bead there. With this one, these beads have quite a big hole and quite a big dip around the hole, and I think the knot will just nestle in there and hide away. So to tie a surgeon's knot, it's very easy. You just start as if you're doing any old granny knot. Let's see if I can actually show you this. And then normally if you were tying a granny knot, then you would just twist around once like that and pull. With this, you twist around again. It's a bit more tricky with elastic cord, and it's certainly very tricky when you're trying to do it at arm's length and you can't see what you're doing. Okay, let's try that again. That was a bit of a battle trying to do it for the camera, so I gave up. But I've managed to get my surgeon's knot tied in this little ring. It's tucked in nicely between those two of those focal beads, so you're not really going to see it. And then I'm just using this GS Hypo glue, which has a nice fine point on it, to just put a tiny drop of the glue on that knot. There we are. So I will be putting that to one side until the glue's dried. And then what I'll do is just gently pull the tails of elastic out, snip them, and then they'll shrink back inside and hide away. And you're not going to see them. Let's put it on a different finger. Because they're elastic, they'll fit, you know, all different fingers. I got fat knuckles these days. But so for the other way, because this focal bead here isn't big enough to hide that knot away, I've used a wire crimp instead. So I've threaded the ends of elastic, so this end of elastic has gone through that way and this end of elastic has gone through that way through the same crimp. I haven't pulled it tight because I don't want to lose that elasticity, and I'm just going to take a little pair of round nose pliers and just squeeze that crimp. Not too hard because I don't want to cut the elastic, but hard enough that it'll keep it all secure. Right, that's it. These were both made with the November subscription boxes from Deborah Beads. I will leave a link to Deborah Beads in the description box below. I mixed up the kit box and the bead box. They're £5 each, including postage to the UK, so you can see what good value they are. I've got 2 lovely bracelets out of this, and 3 rings, and I've only thrown in a very few bits and bobs from my stash: the white beads, some head pins, and just a handful of seed beads, and these 2 toggle clasps for the bracelets. So I've also got left over a couple of different colours of beading cord with some clock crimps there and cord ends here. I've got some of the chain left, so it'd be enough to do another one of these bracelets. I've got a lobster clasp, a toggle clasp, quite a few earring findings, 2 lobster clasps, quite a few earring wires, a scattering of the seed beads left, 3 of those little pearls and 1 frosted glass bead. I could potentially make another ring with those. And my failed attempt at peyote beading, which I will have another go at because, as I say, the principle of it actually was quite straightforward. I will also make sure I leave a link to Sheryl's tutorial because she explains it really well. So probably once I take those apart, I will make a few more stacking rings with them. I mean, it would be quite nice to have a stacking ring with that peyote beading, wouldn't it, if I'd done a better job of it. So that's what I might aim to do. Maybe a ring wouldn't be too ambitious. But first of all, I'm going to have to cut all this apart as well. Anyway, so let's come back up to you can see what wearing this lovely gadget when your hair's still damp out the shower, it does wonders for your hairstyle. Okay, right, so that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed watching that. I think it's going to be a bit of a mishmashed video, and I definitely need to work on finding a better way to show these kind of close-up things. It is harder because my eyesight isn't what it was as well, and it might just be that I have to invest in a different camera, but I haven't had that one very long, so I'm trying to avoid it. There's got to be a way around this. Okay. Anyway, that's you don't need to hear all that. Thanks very much for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again really soon. Bye.